Hello friends, today we are going to be making some absolutely beautiful baby soap. I've done a number of videos with baby soap over the years, and there's lots of different ways to make it, but personally the way I like to make it is I use a high content of shea butter and then olive oil. That's pretty much all. A lot of people will make a full olive oil baby soap. The thing with that is it does take about a year to cure because it needs to get nice and hard. By adding the shea butter, usually within 3 months you can use it and it's good. I mean, you could use it in a day, but it's not going to be super hard. So this has zero cleansing because it's like for a baby or toddler, and it's also great for elderly people as well because it doesn't have the coconut oil that can be quite cleansing on skin that's older or fine skin, or like we said, babies that have that gorgeous, fountain of youth kind of skin. So let's get going. I'm going to show you how I'm doing this as we go along. I will give the recipe today, and I hope that you're going to have fun making this absolutely beautiful, sensitive type formulation. And I'm not adding any scent in it or anything. Usually I would add a few drops of lavender essential oil in it, but I'm just going to keep this one totally plain because when people want baby soap or soap for elderly, they usually want no fragrance or anything in it. So like I said, let's get going. Now, there's a few things we need to do. Of course, I need to put some gloves on, and I have pre-measured lots of this already for you. I've already done the lye and things like that. Now, when I make my lye, I actually work at a different percentage than probably a lot of people do. So I actually do a water discount, and what that means is when you're using soap calc, you can actually say that you want your lye to water ratio like 40, 41, 43, 45, whatever you like. I really wouldn't go over 43 to be honest, and that means it's just going to have less water in it, and with a soap like this that is high in olive oil, that's what we really want. So when they say concentration of lye, it really doesn't mean like it's more lye. It just means that it's reduced the water along the way. So that's pretty much what we're doing today. So inside my beautiful bucket here, I do have some olive oil. So I have some standard olive oil, and then I have the extra virgin olive oil, and hopefully you can kind of see without me popping it out, but it's like a little greeny light sort of color. And then in this bucket here, so let's move this aside and I'll show you. This is my shea butter. It is pretty full. It's 30% shea butter, so it is a really high percentage. And then the only extra thing I have is a tiny bit of castor oil, which is only 1.5% castor. So like I said, I'm going to tell you what we're doing as we go along, and let's get making. So first, I'm literally just going to put all the oils in the same bucket. So let's just pour this in, and let's hope that it all fits in. I have a really sad sinking feeling it's not going to fit in, and I think I don't know whether you can see it, and you probably can't, but this literally comes to the top of the bucket. So this is too small. I'm going to have to find a bigger bucket, and I do have a much bigger one. So with this one here, my recipe here is almost 3,800 grams. It is a big recipe. If you want to make something smaller, all you need to do is just go back over to soap calc, put in the percentages that I'm going to give you, and it will tell you what to do. But like I said, I'm using reduction of water. So if you want to do the same, when it says up the top, it will say, it's in the middle on the very top of soap calc, it will say, what is it? Lye percent. I think it says lye calculation, lye percentage. Anyway, and so in that you write 43. I will do another video on that for you because I've had a few people asking me a little bit and not understanding that. But, I've been making soap for a number of years now, and it does take time to understand all of these. So if you don't understand it, don't think you're doing anything wrong. It's a long process to learn how to do all of these things. Anyway, as I said, I'm getting another bucket because this is way too full, and we don't want this to spill. All right, everyone, I am back. Here is my massive big bucket. Look how big it is. I have used this one before when I make big amounts. So anyway, I have tipped everything from the smaller bucket because that was way too small. And now all I'm going to do is add in my castor oil. Remember, I did talk about that before. So we're just going to add that in here. And in this castor oil, I also do have 30 grams of sodium lactate. Now, the reason I've got that is because when we're making baby soap, if you can imagine, it's very high in olive oil. So what actually happens is sometimes it finds it a little hard to get out of the mold, and sometimes it can be a tiny sticky to get out of the mold. This recipe won't be sticky at all, but sometimes especially if you're doing like your typical sort of Castile soap, which is your olive oil soap, then that can be a little bit tricky. So just by adding that tiny bit in there, and all that is a salt derivative product, and it's such a small amount, it's 1%. So if you're going to use sodium lactate in anything, just use 1%. Now, of course, I've got my glasses and that I'm going to just pop on in just a moment. I also have my molds, which are here. And then I do have a separate smaller mold, which is just going to hold any extras, because I've made extra so that I can make some little guest ones as well. So now I've got my little strainer here because we want to put the lye in here. But before I do that, I'm just going to put glasses on. So let's just get this ready. So I've already made the lye, and let's just pop it in here. And I'm also going to pop the recipe down below. I usually don't. Now, people ask me why I don't put the recipe down in the description. And I'll tell you why. And there's a number of people that don't do it. What actually happens is people don't watch the video and they just go and get the free recipe at the bottom, which is okay if that's what they want to do. But it just means that we've done this whole video and we actually don't make any money from it if you just get the recipe. So literally that's why. That's why you'll see people do it that way. And, making videos and doing things like this on YouTube, this is a lot of people's full-time job. Like, this is actually my full-time job, opening and owning a conference, and obviously, having a YouTube channel. And yes, I do have my own company, but, most of my revenue is actually made from videos and teaching people. And then, of course, I also do teach people. I have a thing on my Patreon which is called Entrepreneurs, and then I actually do one-on-one Zooms with people a couple times a month. So, I do earn a lot of my revenue that way. So anyway, now we are done. So we've got everything in here, my loves, and all we're going to do is stick blend. But I know this is a little boring because you can't see anything, so I'll cut this bit out and I'll bring you back when we're ready to make this gorgeous. All right, so I'm going to mix a little bit more. Now, one thing I guess I wanted to tell all of you, when you're making this, it's not going to come to tray super fast. It will look really thin, and so you don't have to keep mixing. Of course, you want it to be combined, no oil sitting on the top, because, this does not have the bulk of fats and things like that normally you would have in it. So, like I said, I'll tell you what we've got in it. So we've got 30% shea butter in here. We have 68.5% olive oil, and that's a mix of olive oil and extra virgin, but you can just use straight olive oil. It doesn't really matter. And then 1.5% of castor oil, and that's it. There is no fragrance, nothing like that. We don't want any of that in there. I promise you most people will not want that. So I'm going to give it one more little blend, and then let's just pour it in the mold and make it look beautiful. All right, everybody, I have my molds down here. So I'm just going to pour this directly into these molds and to make them beautiful. And it's just one color, so that makes it super easy, doesn't it? And these molds I've got from Aussie Soap Supplies, and basically about 1,700 grams will fill one of these right to the top. So I'm thinking that one is pretty good. Let me just move this one out the way. Always give it a bit of a tap. And then, of course, I'm going to make it beautiful. It's going to take time for this to get a little bit thicker before I can, make it look all lovely on top. But I haven't made this for a while. I've had a few people asking me, you know, when am I actually going to make baby soap? Because I ran out a while ago and I've been in the middle of packaging, but I thought, look, I have to do this. I'm going to be ordering at least probably another 4 of these molds so that I can, you know, finish off what I'm doing. Okay, so I've done that. Now I do have this little mold here, and I'm sorry that the camera, let me put the camera actually a bit closer. I think I can do that because I've lost my tripod stand, so I'm using a phone stand. I mean, no laughing, friends. Okay, that's a bit better, isn't it? So let's just pour it into these. I also got these from Aussie Candles. Sorry, not Aussie Candles, Aussie Soap. And I can't remember what they cost. Maybe it was $12 each. I can't remember, but it's a really good mold. And one thing I like is I can actually put my stamp on top. I actually did have a really good mold from a cake supplier, which was perfect. I loved it. The shape was great, but unfortunately it had an indent in it and I couldn't put my stamp. And as you go along, people will start to actually ask you for your stamp. So that's the thing now. I do get a lot of companies saying, oh, that they want to make sure my stamp is on it. And, you know, that's a little bit of branding. Once you sort of get known a little bit, people might want your brand on it. And I think I've definitely made way more than I needed, but that's okay. We can give away some samples. I don't mind doing that. And doesn't this look beautiful? And now everybody, please charge your worth. You know, you can't be making something like this, but charging $2 a bar. You know, you just can't. So please make sure you charge what you're worth. I know you might think, well, people don't want to pay that, but I promise you they will. If it's quality, they will pay. All right, I do actually have these molds. These were the ones I was saying I got from a cake store as well. And I'm sorry that it's a little off camera, but I'm just going to pour these to the side because I have too much. And then it's actually kind of handy. I can use these to give away samples, or I can keep these for myself. I might actually even give these to my grandbabies because I have 4 darling grandchildren. I do have 3 grandsons and 1 gorgeous little butterfly granddaughter. She's an absolute darling. I mean, the boys are beautiful too, but it's sweet to have a little ballerina in the mix as well, isn't it? So very, very cute. I love them all dearly. And it's almost Easter, so they'll be waiting for their Easter hunt soon. I do an Easter hunt every year for my grandchildren, so I know they're going to be super excited. Now, one thing, don't do what I just did. I poured them in here. They're not in a tray, so this is almost impossible to move it. I can move it a little bit, but that's what I'm saying. Like, I always make this mistake every single time I make something. It's very annoying because I'm a bit silly like that. But anyway, we've done that, and the other bit is not ready. I've just put my little finger with the gloves in to see if it's ready. Always wear gloves, friends. Please don't do this without gloves, you know, or glasses, because, you know, what actually happens is you can get this lye on you or the soap, and if this gets on, it actually stings because it's not, you know, it hasn't gone through its curing bit yet. You know, and of course it does have sodium lactate. And I get asked all the time, can I make soap without it? And I'm like, no, you can't. The only way you can is if you do melt and pour, because it's already been made and gone through that process from the supplier who makes it. So, yeah, so that's the thing. And, you know, it's not, because I had somebody ask me once, they said, well, putting sodium lactate on your skin, isn't that bad for you? And I said, well, sodium hydroxide. And I said, well, you're not putting that on your skin. It's a chemical reaction from that to the oil, and that's why it goes, you know, you need to make sure it's gone hard and it's gone through its process so that it's not dangerous. And you need to make sure that it's really mixed in well, because, you know, if you have too much lye, which means it's lye heavy and all those other things, well then, yeah, then you do have a bit of a problem. But like I said, there's other things that you can do to stop any of that as well. So you just need to make sure that your, you know, your process of making things is really, really good. And, you know, it's important to have documents as well. I'm in the middle of making some more documents for Patreon because, as I've said to a couple people, when you're doing this as a business, you need to have documents to tell you how you're doing it, safety procedures, and so on. And you may think, well, that's silly, it's only me. But, you know, maybe you need to have signs to say poison if you have lye, because how would you be if a friend's child came in and touched it? You know, or tried to drink it or something. Like, you know, we all have friends come around, or children in our lives, whether it's our own or someone else's. So you will be amazed. Maybe you need to have some poison signs on things, or, you know, it's something to think about, isn't it? Because, you know, you don't want to put yourself in a situation. So now it is not ready because I've already, like, if you can see, dipped it in, and that's how you can see that it's still thin. It's not thin as a lot of them, but it's still thin. So anyway, I'm going to come back in 10 minutes. Then we are going to just make this, just give it a little bit of a pattern. But of course, it has no scent in it. It doesn't have anything like that, which is good. We don't want that. You know, baby soap does not need to be fragranced at all, because baby skin is very, very sensitive. So you want to make sure that, you know, you're just leaving it to be a little bit lovely. Anyway, I'm going to come back in a minute and we'll do that. All right, everyone, look at my beautiful soaps here. Don't they look darling? So now I've tried to actually do a little bit of a marking in them. It's left a tiny marking, but it is still quite soft, which is okay, because I do notice sometimes when it's really starting to get hard, you know, the spoon or the whatever you're using, I use a popsicle stick to make my pattern, and it just makes it so messy and crazy. So anyway, I'm glad that it is not super horrible and hard yet. But as I said, if you didn't add the shea butter in this, you'd never get to this. So you know, because you'd have to wait hours before it was thick enough to actually do a pattern in, with it being just olive oil. But the shea really does help, and it feels really gorgeous. It's very, very high in conditioning as well. So anyway, it's just beautiful. So I'm going to put some more gloves on because this is still kind of wet and I don't want to touch it. Then let's do something beautiful. All right, so let's give it a bit of a go. I'm just going to see, and now this is all I use, a popsicle stick. There's so many other things that you can use. I mean, you can use a spoon, and all I do is literally, if you can see, you just sort of push it down on this side and bring it over. So you're literally just putting it over the top, and you can see, if you can see, there's not much of a pattern. There's a very, very light pattern in this, but that's okay. I don't mind giving it a bit of a play with it and see how it comes out as well. And you know, sometimes this is a good time when they're all like this and it's not thick at all, to give you a bit of a chance to go, okay, how can I do this? Because you know what, if it doesn't work out, who cares? You can just go and, you know, start again, because you know, you haven't made much of a pattern, so it doesn't really matter. And then you can maybe do a swirl on the edge. So basically, I bring all of mine into the middle, and then I do a swirl on the edge. And if I'm going to add florals or anything, is where I'd add it at the end. But obviously, we're not going to do that on a baby soap. We're not going to add anything like that. And if you are adding florals, or, you know, sometimes I'll add like coconut and things like that, just try not to add too much, because nobody wants too much added. And with a baby soap, you don't want this peaking high in the middle, because no one really wants that for a baby soap. So I think for a baby soap, you literally only want a small pattern. And maybe even if you're going to do these ones, which I've got aside, which are my little other ones, you can do a pattern in those if you want. But I think it needs the slightest pattern, because as I said, you know, if it was a baby soap, you don't want a sharp bit just pointing up in the air. I think that would drive you nuts. So like I said, for today, I'm going to make sure that it's only just got a very slight little pattern on it. And I think that would just look, you know, quite nice. Hopefully you can see it. I tried to do this so that you can actually see the pattern. But anyway, I'm going to stop playing, because I think, you know, the more I do this, the more I make a mess and tip everything out. But I'm going to bring you back when we get to cut these, which will not be right now. But I promise to bring you back. Hello everybody, it is the next day and I have started cutting this deliciously gorgeous buttery looking baby soap, which is so beautiful. Now most of my soap I can cut within about 8 hours, but with this one here, because it has a lot more olive oil, you know, I cut it the next day, but don't leave it more than 24 hours. If you do, it will be hard and crumbly to cut. Because generally bars that have all olive oil can sort of feel a bit crumbly, which is funny because you think, well, it's all oil. Why does that happen? But it all has to do with the fats and everything within the oils. So anyway, doesn't it look divine? It's just beautiful. And I will actually be curing this one for several months, usually 3 to 6 months. So I thought, because I am going to hopefully release this one, I think I'm going to release it maybe August. So basically I need to get going with lots. I might, and what I do with baby soap is I often try and make like 1,000 bars, because the longer it sits there curing, the better it is. So that's generally what I would suggest, is make lots of this one and just let it sit on the shelf for quite some time. But I'm really loving it. I've done several different recipes of baby soap. To date, I think this is my favorite, and once again, you know, and it is going to have my stamp on. I will put my stamp, but I won't put the stamp on it yet. Maybe tonight I'm going to actually do that, because the conference is almost here. So today I have to go out and do a few things, because in a couple of days time I need to pick up Marie from the airport, and from Humblebee and Me. As I did promise her, I'll pick her up. I can't leave her in Melbourne without a lift. That would be really mean, wouldn't it? So, and she's just so sweet and lovely to come down here and see us all down under in Australia. So it's a bit exciting. So now, like I said, I'm going to get going with this. I've got lots of things to do today, and I'm going to see you all on the next video. Bye, friends.